right, well, thank you, everybody. I love that last panel. This is one of the reasons why this conference is so great, hearing directly from the leaders of shops on what they're doing, best practices, and James is going to share some of what he's doing in his shop as well. So we're talking about what we call true digital transformation. So really getting rid of all of the paper in a shop, going completely paperless. And James has used a number of software tools to do that, ProShop being one. So anyway, my name is Paul. I'm one of the founders of ProShop. I used to own a machine shop for 17 years before we started our software company. And so that's me. James, will you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is James Marzilli, and I started and owned Marzilli Machine Company about 10 years ago. And we, about 2 years ago, decided to make a pretty big push towards automating the administration of our company and removing as much paper from the manufacturing process as we possibly can. Having paper in our company isn't illegal. Some people are still attached to paper prints and things like that, but we don't allow that to become our master documents. Those papers have to be destroyed as soon as they're done. And we use our ERP, we use ProShop as our master document. So everything is inside of the software.
So one of the things that is on a lot of shops' minds, especially smaller shops, is how do you compete, right? We even heard about this yesterday. There's consolidation in the industry. There's very big customers. There are more consolidation in supply base, and even a lot of shops are being consolidated and bought up. So how can a shop compete, right? We all know this is an incredibly competitive industry. It's very capital intensive. And so this is one of the things that is on people's minds today.
Yeah, in my experience, what we found was when people were talking about automating in the manufacturing process, what they really were talking about was bringing in robots. They were going to replace all your labor with this utopian idea of we're going to have all robot arms everywhere. It was going to handle everything for you. But anybody who took one step further, started looking into if that was possible, realized it was hundreds of thousands of dollars even to come close to just starting this. Your first robot arm, getting it in is a six-figure investment. Plus you need somebody who knows how to use it. So as a small shop, which we're probably closer to a medium shop now, I can put spindles on my floor for that kind of money, and I'm gonna see a return in chips immediately. So moving in that direction did not seem like the right way for us to go. So that's when we said, well, maybe not replace the people, but let's replace the system instead.
So yeah, if you want to just sort of continue on.
So we were 7 years in with our old ERP company, and that's a tough thing. We had tens of thousands of dollars invested in this system. We'd been using it for forever. That's where all of our documents were, and it always left me wanting. I felt that there was a lot of things it wasn't handling. It really wasn't up to speed with anything else I used in my day-to-day life, like my iPad or my laptop or anything. At home, I could have systems that could control my entire kitchen if I wanted, but at work, where I'm supposed to be making parts for space shuttles and rockets, it's so antiquated, and everything is in this little manila folder, constantly lost. Those things you can never find them when you're looking for them.
So that's a scary place to be, right? You realize you've invested a huge amount of time into an older system that's not adapting with you, and it's a scary prospect to try to throw that away, make an investment in something different that's somewhat unknown, right? You're talking to salespeople who are trying to tell you their system's the best thing since sliced bread, but the reality is, continuing once you've realized that your old systems aren't going to scale with you, they can't take you to where you want to go. It's like watering a dead plant, right? There's no point in continuing to pour money in that, throwing good money after bad kind of thing. So if you are at the place where you're looking to grow, looking to scale your company, and you're going to try to do it with the same exact systems that you've had before, and just throw more people at the problem, that is not a sustainable business model, especially in machine shops where the margins are slim, and of course today there's not enough people out there even if you did want to hire them all. So
yeah, my company is about to move. We're about to expand from about about 5,000 square feet to about 20,000 square feet. So the thing I find myself saying a lot to my guys as we're working is, if it doesn't work now, it certainly isn't going to work then. If the problems will scale with us, and they'll just become even more unmanageable. So it was important to solve them now while we could get our hands around it while it was smaller, instead of waiting until, we'd probably be 4 times the size of what we are now. So I'm glad that we're attacking these things now. We always used to say that there's 3 ways to solve a problem. You could throw money at it, you could throw people at it, or you could throw willpower at it. And usually you want to try to throw 2 of the 3 at a problem. And not all of us have the ability to just throw endless capital at the problems that we face every day. So you get together and you brainstorm, you come up with great ideas, and you put your people in place and they start handling those things. But what if you could have them handling other issues instead of, most of them are handling administrative problems or problems not being prepared when you're ready to cut. And so that was the mentality that we took when we got over the fear of taking the plunge and getting off our old ERP and into ProShop.
So, many shops out there, and I'm sure the case is in yours, it's been run the same way for a long time, right? Maybe you came into the business, you inherited it, your parents used to run the business, and it's been run the same way for a lot of years. And for a lot of shop owners, they don't know what they don't know. Like, they grew up in that shop, they've kind of invented it themselves, right? Maybe you started as a machinist and you decided to go out on your own. And sometimes it's kind of lonely at the top. You don't necessarily have peers that you can really talk to, really dig and ask questions about, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? So a lot of shops find themselves kind of at an inflection point about how, what does my business look like going forward? It takes an open mind. It takes a leap of faith in some ways, but it's something that you have to do.
Yeah, we found, and so like what Paul's saying is, if you were, in my case, I was a machinist who decided to go out on his own. And so here I am now, I'm the president of my own company. Who are my peers? My peers are my competitors. So I can't go to my competitors and ask them how to run my business better or how to get advice. There's no book on how to do this the right way, and everybody's journey to get there is going to be different. What I really liked about the onboarding process itself of switching over to ProShop was, it was like taking a college course on how to properly run my machine shop. I did it for an hour, 3 times a week, a little bit of homework that goes with it, just like if you were to take a course at a community college. And within 3 months, I was what they call our ProShop champion, and I was ready to go and to teach it to the rest of the guys. Another big difference that I noticed from my old ERP to this one was the team at ProShop, you feel like they're a part of your company while they're doing this. They're on your team. Where my experiences with my older ERP was, they wanted $300 every time I called them. They weren't on my team, they were on their team, and they weren't there to solve my problems in the way that my onboard specialist's name was Luke, and this guy was amazing. Answered all of my questions, gave me a lot of insight, really opened my eyes to just how bad I really had been doing this, which is something you just kind of have to accept, that I didn't know what I was doing, and most of us don't. We kind of figure it out as we go. And it was really nice to have somebody say, here's how we did it when we were running a very successful shop. And you go, maybe I can't do it exactly like that, but man, that's a great idea. Here's how I could implement this.
Yeah, so Jamie had said this exact phrase to me when we were talking and planning for this session. And kind of like I said before, if you're in your business and that's what you've done for decades, it's hard to have a different perspective, right? That can come from someone with an outside perspective, right? You're there trying to ship jobs every day, get parts out on time, keep quality good. So where do you actually learn how to run a business like this? So,
and you get one shot, right? Anybody who actually cuts, you know it. You got one shot. You get one shot to get it right. If you miss it, it's scrap. You got to start over. And so then you end up having to make these choices where if you missed it, now basically you're paying out of your pocket to keep your customer, because you got to remake it. You have to do what needs to be done to keep your customers happy. So how do you minimize that risk as much as you can? And it's through planning. The better you plan the job, the more that you have everything ready to go right when you need it. You're not buying more than what you need. You're only buying exactly what you need. That kind of planning is you're going to really increase the odds that you're going to get it right that first time, every time that you approach the cut.
So we have a lot of fun with video. And when Jamie and I were planning this, he saw this video and he said, that was what my shop was. We need to play this. It's only 30 seconds long, so let's.
V-Tool 12, tool bath, now.
What job is that for? Get this done.
Still won't load.
Get on this.
Are you done yet?
Nice tool bath. You're still working on
We
that?
need to ship this tonight. What are you doing?
So hopefully some of you can relate to that, right? This is what our days are like. I know days were like that at my shop for sure. Yeah, I mean, you related to that, right? That's.
For
I mean,
sure.
You're one of the head programmers in your company.
I mean, my travelers were blue, but other than that, that's exactly what that was like. And I'm a clipboard guy, so I've got a legal pad with a clipboard, but my planner was a Post-it note guy, right? I mean, listen to what I'm saying to you. How crazy does this sound? So my planner was a Post-it note guy, but I'm a clipboard guy. So I'm walking in, I got my nice, neat list. He's got Post-it notes all over the place. I can't make heads and tails of it. And the sneeze thing right there, I remember a similar incident happening like that where his notes got all mixed up, and that was the end of Post-it notes in my company. Can you guys see this? Can you go to that one?
The next one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go there in a second. So before we leave this slide, I would argue the most expensive machine in your company is that printer in the corner.
Well, it's definitely the one holding you back.
Yeah.
This right here, when Paul showed me this picture, I made a noise. And he said, what was that for? And I went, the idea of going back to this makes me sick to my stomach. I don't know if you guys can read the words, but there is somebody trying to convey how to properly make this part on one piece of paper, and it's not on the other piece of paper. And all I can see there is, that's not going out the door right, for sure. One guy knows how to make it, he's the only guy. And so the idea of going back to running like this, I think I'd have an exodus. I think some of my guys would just, no, we're not doing it, and I think they would head out, or they would think it was a joke, because that's just how much smoother things run. We use the system in really unique ways to trap data like this from our customer. We'll print emails as PDFs, save them right onto our work orders, so everybody knows the same knowledge. It's not one guy knows stuff and maybe this guy knows it. Everybody knows the same stuff all the time, instantly.
So during the last session, we heard them talk about this soft automation. And we truly believe this is one of the things that will set shops apart from all the rest, right? Every shop can buy fancy machines, drop them on their floor, but that is not enough to instill confidence in your customers that you are the shop that they want to do business with, because your business processes and your software systems are so reliable that it is the least risky thing for them to do business with you, as opposed to the shop down the road that's still doing things on paper and old travelers and things like that.
Right, and we all fall victim to the yesterday's mentality. When I first started my company, my idea as a machinist coming into becoming a business owner was I wanted to make really cool parts. And so I was taking on really challenging projects because I wanted to show everybody that we had skill. And I had the wrong mindset for what I was doing, and I really should have been focused more on making money and not making parts. And now that we've made these changes, now we can reinvest our money into our company and really allow it to grow. And now we make these great parts and we make money. And this year, we're on track right now to have a 70% growth over last year, which is crazy. It's just really hectic, but it's a lot of fun at the same time. And we didn't purchase any capital equipment. So where does all of that revenue come from? And the truth is it's waste. There's an unbelievable amount of waste in manufacturing. Until you can really iron things out, you really don't even know how much waste you have.
So this is sort of the new tech stack that Marzilli Machine is using. Obviously, they're using ProShop as kind of the backbone, the ecosystem. But James, tell us about the other things you're using.
So we use Inspection Manager by HiQA. And we use that to manage the quality aspect of the company, automatically balloons our prints, generates all of our reports. We got High QA and ProShop together, and we actually just export all of our reports digitally, bring them right into ProShop, so we have all of our stuff in one software, so we're not mixing and matching the two. And Accelerant is a company that is local to me that we've brought in to do machine monitoring. And we also got them connected with ProShop, and we have the two softwares kind of talking with one another so everybody knows what's going on the floor. So right now, there's somebody at my shop just monitoring how the shop is performing from the computer screens. And we know right away if there's a problem or if it needs a floor supervisor, and it's all in real time.
And then you are going to be adding another one to that stack soon.
Correct. We've decided that it's, we've got the ProShop and the Accelerant part of it down now, and we've got some bandwidth, and we've placed a purchase order to begin implementing paperless parts.
And last week we had a public announcement about, there you go, about the integration between paperless parts and ProShop. So when you're doing that 3D model-based estimating that they do so well, and you win that job, that estimate will flow smoothly right into ProShop without any duplicate data entry. So this is what it often comes down to when you are, again, growing your company and you have to do all these administrative tasks that, depending on what you're using, what systems you're doing, right? Maybe very paper heavy, maybe a lot of sort of human capital heavy. It's a struggle to know how much overhead we need compared to how many production value added creation revenue producing people. So
I like to call this the ass to seat ratio. You have to have the right number to mix these two together. You have to have enough spindles.
We even have a slide for that.
Yeah, and this is actually where a lot of this growth came from. So we were able to move a lot of non-producing employees either into new producing roles or to, obviously companies have to shift sometimes. And now we have a ratio where I have three people who are not involved with the manufacturing process running my company, and there are 22 other people on the floor working. And that is a ratio for success. My overhead people we try to keep that as low as we possibly can, and still be able to work for higher end customers that have strict requirements and ISOs and paperwork and certifiability, traceability requirements that you need. So we're not giving anything up, but we just need less people to get the same amount done now.
Yeah, I'm sure all of you are facing this all the time, where the requirements from your customers are just getting more and more and more stringent, right? More quality reports, more status updates, more everything. Even all the new cybersecurity stuff that's coming into play, right? So there's just increasing demands, and at the same time, they're beating you up on price. So it puts you in a tough spot to try to keep up with all of that. Again, possibly doing it the old way you did before. So especially as it relates to responsiveness, right? Every client wants their quotes super fast. They want order confirmation super fast. They want delivery lead times as fast as possible, and it's just incredibly demanding.
Yeah. So most of you have been in this situation. You're sitting at your desk, and the phone rings, and it's a customer on the other end of it, and they're probably mad at you. If they're calling and they're mad, where's their parts? Where's this? What's going on? So they've got you on your heels. And one of my favorite parts about ProShop is that they've only got me on my heels for a couple of seconds. So I can very quickly, who is it? I click the customer, what PO are we talking about? I click the PO, everything is hyperlinked to itself. So just from those two pieces of information, I know every part that we're working on, what's its status, what's going on with it, and I have answers, and that's what they want. They want answers. Now they can go and report back to their boss, and you buy yourself a little bit of time, and you can make sure that you get things out. And you can do this within seconds, especially once you get used to the software. It's click, 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 here we go. This is at the anodizer. We're expecting to have it back, in a few days, and, we apologize for the delay. But, there's a lot of delays right now in manufacturing. I know a lot of people are feeling it. Everything is delayed, from your material to your anodizing to shipping. UPS hates us all.
So one of the, even though I think probably many shops right now were super busy, I know Jamie's just barely keeping up with the amount of work that's coming in. It is always really important to have a long-term strategy of sales and marketing. So when you do have the ups and downs in the industry, you can weather those without having huge reductions in your work. So we have been big advocates for years that selling the sort of soft side of your business, the administrative side, is actually one of the most compelling things you can do as a sales tool, right? Like I said before, you can buy fancy machines, but everyone can buy a fancy machine, right?
And it works.
Yeah.
Selling your ERP to your customers works because it tells them that you're prepared, that you're planning, and that you're statistically you're going to be a lot more likely to deliver on time and deliver good products. And anybody who's been purchasing for a while knows things like that. They know shops that have good systems from shops that have bad systems. And I told Paul this story one time. I was in a large firearms manufacturer, and we were going in to talk about moving to an LTA for some parts that we had been making for them for a while. And I asked them if I could connect to their Wi-Fi. And they were a little weirded out by it, but they let me. And I gave them a demo of ProShop, of parts that I was making for them at that moment on their television at their shop.
From his cell phone.
From my cell phone. I casted it up to their TV and showed them exactly how we knew what was going on. And needless to say, they were pretty blown away by that they had a lot of questions. And from that point, I basically controlled that meeting. And it's going to end up working out very favorably for me.
Yeah, because as Jason talked about yesterday in our talk, de-risking the supply chain is one of the main things that a buyer has to do. Besides beating you up on price, it's their job to make sure that when they place work with a supplier, that you're going to deliver on time, good quality parts at the price you agreed on. And I've been very close friends with some buyers and quality auditors, or in the sort of strategic supply chain, and they'll say, I can go into a shop and in less than 5 minutes I can tell you if that shop has their act together, or if it's sort of behind the curtain, they're an absolute mess, right? And so being able to be proactive and share what you're doing technology-wise to instill confidence in them is a really big deal. So
it also shows them your ability to adapt.
Sure.
And that, it's a challenging thing that we do. And so the people who can adapt and overcome are the ones who are going to win.
Well, one of the points you made in your talk when you were telling me about that example out on the shop with your customer was that, a lot of their suppliers, the owners of those suppliers, are getting older. They're not adapting to technology, and them as the customer is feeling a little bit at risk that their supply chain isn't keeping up. So they're looking for reliable shops. They're going to be on the edge of technology, and they're in 5, 10, 20 years, right? And that's what you were kind of demonstrating, that you were able to do.
Right.
That.
Yeah. When the government put their blanket announcement for NIST down on everybody, it really opened up a lot of people in purchasing's eyes to that a lot of shops are not going to be able to adapt because their management just isn't interested.
Yeah.
So this is this picture right here is actually how I show nobody asks me what to do anymore, which if you're a manager at one of these companies, that's probably the question you answer the most. What do I do now? And so what we did was we took, these are called dashboards, and they basically control when one thing gets moved to the next operation, it pops up on the appropriate dashboard. So what you're looking at here in this picture are 4 separate dashboards, all underneath inspection. And one of them tells them what's waiting to be inspected to go out for processing, what's waiting to be inspected to go out for a final, what's hot, and then the other one is just basically an overview of everything that's coming up in the near future. And so when we train new people to come in, we tell them when you're done with this task and you queue it to the next stop, you go to the board, and the board will tell you what to do next. Don't come and ask me. You're probably not going to get a great answer from me. Go to the board, do what's on the top of the board. The board is ordered by its must-leave-by date, and that's the way you want to do it. You want to be first in, first out, and that's how you actually can achieve that.
So when we talk to customers about how the actual impact on the shop floor is affected by this soft transformation, one of the things that we hear most often is that they cut their setup times in half. And it begs the question, how does how do you actually cut setup time, which is an on-the-machine type of thing with software? So Jamie wanted to kind of share a little bit and geek out a little bit, if you will, exactly kind of what this process looks like in his shop.
Well, we wanted to give you, a tangible experience of actually how this happens. Everybody says, every sales guy that comes up to you says, I'm going to cut this in half for you. I'm going to double your profits on this. They always say things like that. But here's how we actually did it. We took anything that wasn't actually cutting metal, which we would consider online time, and we moved it to what we call offline time. So now, programming, toolkitting, material handling, planning for your inspection, make sure you have all your gauges, your Deltronics, that your bore gauges are already set up, all of this stuff. So at the moment that you're ready and the schedule says it's time to start cutting, that's what actually happens. What used to happen was, well, now it's time to start this job. Okay, where's the material? Who did the program? Oh, there isn't a program, so start programming it. That's all downtime on your spindle that you can't get back. And so that kind of stuff, we remove the uncertainty from what my operators and my setup guys are supposed to do. They go into their work order, there's pictures, they know exactly what part they're working on, their quality control documentation is already done for them, and it just allows them to move much faster. The other thing at the bottom where it says, that we treat our people like resources, what that means is that we actually put them into the software as if they were a machine, like a machining center, just like any other one. And what we do is when there's a line that particular person has to handle, we assign it to them. We don't actually put a schedule together for them, but we assign it to them. So now you're saying to your quality manager, how busy are you? You used to be able to tell because his desk was filled with travelers. And you're like, oh yeah, he's really busy. Well, now there are no travelers. So is he busy or is he not busy? So what we do is we treat them like resources, and they know how busy they are, and they know what needs to get done next, and it's all digital and in the system, and they just mark it off complete as they go, and that's how we know basically where we stand with things. We also standardized our trainings. That's also inside the system, so everybody is doing things the same way, and that helps out a lot too.
When we were planning this talk, Jamie was kind of reminiscing about the last 18 months of his company compared to the prior, years before that, and he shared with me a story that I thought was really pertinent and wanted to have him share with you guys as well.
So right now we're in the process of building a couple of thousand of these assemblies that we make for one of our customers. And we ran out of screws. Not that we didn't have all the screws, we didn't have enough to finish it. Maybe we dropped some or we lost them. And the guys on my floor lost their minds. This was the worst thing that had ever happened to them. And at that moment I thought, man, how far we've come. I remember 2 years ago, we never had the screws. They were never there. When we got the screws? Right as we were about to put it together and we realized we didn't have the screws. Then we ordered all the screws. And now it's been going so smoothly and so well for so long that when we ran out of screws, people started acting like this was the worst thing that had ever happened to them. And I thought that was an amusing anecdote of just how far we've come. If you're looking at a flat line and then there's a little blip on it, that blip looks really large compared to the chaos that it used to be all the time.
So we've all heard this phrase before, and one of the things that Jamie was sharing with me is that at the time when he got his last system, that was kind of the best there was, right? But things that we've seen, like with what the incredible stuff that Paperless Parts is doing, what High QA is doing, what Accelerant is now doing with him for machine monitoring. These options didn't exist a few years ago. Now with APIs and connecting softwares together, browser-based cloud, as we talked about yesterday, it just truly does allow you to be more profitable, do far more work with less people, and be able to keep up with those just incredibly intensive demands from customers who are wanting everything faster, better, cheaper. So, yeah.
Like I had said to Paul, that my biggest regret was not doing it sooner, much sooner, which then he made me feel a lot better that this stuff didn't exist when I wish I had done it 8 years ago. It would have been, it's better to do it from the beginning and grow into it if you can, but for a lot of us that wasn't an option. And so take the plunge. It really, It's a painful thing to do, to throw away what you know and to dive into something completely new. And I'm saying that from experience. But if I had to go back and do it all over again, I would do it 100 times.
Yeah, it's not an easy process, but at the end of the day, it is a necessary process. And I would also say for any smaller shops out there listening, we hear sometimes people say, well, I'm only 6 or 8 people. I'm not big enough for an ERP system. And the reality is the exact opposite. You need to put one in when you're a 1 or 2 person company, build an incredibly strong foundation of systems, and that's what will allow your company to grow and scale. So that's our presentation. Definitely open up for any questions. Thank you very much for your time. James is happy to, happy to take emails if anyone has questions they'd like specifically about him. One of our main website is not this, but we put this together for Valentine's Day earlier this year. If you want to take a picture of that with your phone, it'll pop up and pull it up on the browser. But thank you very much for your time today, and hopefully that gives you something to think about and think of what your future might look like in your shop to try to be more competitive. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.